Hello, hello. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to Medical Morons. We have our first ever event in person in New York City at Sweets by Nilo this Thursday. If you're interested in attending, please sign up at the link in our bio. It's going to be a panelist of some of our favorite former guests from Medical Morons, and it's going to be free food and drinks and some fun goodies and surprises. So you really aren't going to want to miss it. It's going to be a good time to network and meet other people. So check it out if you want to come. So get ready for today's episode because we are sitting down with one of the most highly regarded orthodontists in New York City, Dr. Mark Bronsky. Everyone seems to know Dr. Bronsky. Most people listening to this probably already know who he is. But just as a little bit of background, his resume is very impressive, and it's honestly too extensive and long to go through all of it, but just to give out a little taste of what his background is, and go check out his website for some inspiration because he does it all. It's crazy. So he's a board certified orthodontist and the founder of Bronsky Orthodontics in Manhattan. And he's a salutatorian, didn't even know that was a thing, from UAB School of Dentistry. And he went to UNC for his ortho residency, where he studied under Dr. Prophet himself. He's in countless societies and study clubs and also dedicates his expertise to the craniofacial anomalies program at New York Presbyterian. So can you see why he's the guy in New York City?
He's awesome. I mean, he's thoughtful and earnest and really emphasizes the quality of care. I mean, I think anybody who has integrity and pride in what they do, that has to be the starting point, and table stakes.
I wanted to ask him how much he sleeps because he accomplishes so much in such a short time. So I actually did need to ask him that. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to include this or what, but being in this gap before I start working, my ideas are flowing constantly. I'm constantly thinking of what I can do, what I should learn, what I can work on. But once I start working, I'm going to be busy. He has all this business and a family, and he's in every study club. It's he is always thinking about the next step and the next thing. And I think that's a big reason why he is as successful as he is now. So it was really, really fun to talk to him.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
he's just an easy chat too. So
And he's a Giants fan, so
and he's a Giants fan. It couldn't get
what do
better
you
than
want?
that. No, I think people will learn a lot from this. He clearly he took everything from his mentors. He absorbed knowledge, and he just gave quick tidbits throughout the episode that he's learned through his entire career. He did a really good job at kind of condensing it into 45 minutes or
And
so.
it sounds like he did a very good job of selecting his mentors.
For sure. For sure. So yeah, I'm excited to edit this back because I'm gonna relearn everything he said. I learned a ton, and I'm excited to have our listeners listen.
All right. Well, my dinner is approaching, so
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna hang up. But this was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
All right. Love ya. Enjoy your
Thanks, Nat.
dinner.
Love you too.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's welcome Dr. Mark Bronsky to Medical Morons.
I grew up in Binghamton, New York. My dad was an orthodontist. He went to NYU Dental from 1950 to 54, joined the Navy because he had to in 54, was a chief dental officer in Newfoundland, Argentia, Newfoundland, for 2 years, then went to Tufts Ortho, went back to his hometown. And when I was a little kid, I was the third of three children. So I liked following him around, just like a little puppy. And I worked in his office, and I went to high school right next to his office. So I would open for him. I would work in his lab at night and fracture teeth. And I just saw how much fun he was having buzzing around his literally a two-chair office. And I just got the bug when I was about 12. I had no originality about it. I just saw him having fun, and I have a similar personality that he does, but it just seemed like a fun profession. After I graduated high school, public high school in Binghamton Central High School, went to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, where I majored in biology. And my brother, who's 4 years ahead of me, who also was an orthodontist, but was also a good mentor at the time, said, go to the dental schools that have the research funding because they'll have the best faculty and best ability to specialize if you do research. So I chose, of the top 5 schools, I chose the number 2 and got in, which was University of Alabama at Birmingham. A lot of New Yorkers don't know that it's a great school, but it still is. And after graduating from there, I went to UNC Chapel Hill for residency, my favorite academic experience of my life. And then my chairman, Dr. Profit, set up a 1-year fellowship, which didn't exist. He created it for me in Europe, where I studied growth modification in kids, which is really, when I say invented, it was really popularized in Sweden. I spent a lot of time in Sweden and Finland, and then came back. I always wanted to come back to New York. I'm a kid from the Catskills. Every time I came to New York, my eyes just bugged out. And you both know, or Sophia knows as well, there are two kinds of people who get energy from New York and people who energy is sucked out of them by New York. I'm clearly nuclear fusion in New York. I love it. I just love it. So I came here. I worked for, in those days, you got a job through the back of the AAO Journal. It's the only place you could do and sent to P.O. Box. So I worked for 15 months in what was at the time the biggest practice in New York, and just wasn't for me. I wanted to provide a different kind of service for my patients. So I went out on my own, and February 5th, 92, rented space from an older gentleman who was an orthodontist in New York City named Dr. Arnold Geiger, who was a professor at Columbia, where you go to residency. And one day he just came in and said, "That's it. I'm going to spend every day the rest of my life with Ruthie, and it's yours. And you got to buy the practice, and here's the price, no negotiation." So I rented his space at 30 East 40th, which is a big, vertical dental ghetto, and still is. And I was there for 9 years. And one of my friends whose kids I was treating, named Alan Pollock, periodontist, wonderful man, great doctor, said, "Hey, there's a space that opened up in my building, which is at 530 Park," which then became my second office. And I've been there for 24 years. And love the area. It's absolutely gorgeous area. You can get to anything. And since my dad branched out in upstate, you go to the patients don't come to you. So he had several offices all around, and I had the notion in my head I wanted to open up in Tribeca. So one of my friends who's a pediatric dentist down here, Dr. Renee Wild, she calls me Buddy. She said, "Buddy, if you don't move down here, somebody else is going to take it." So she helped me get the lease of her old office, and I've been down here now for 20 years. Alternating my time. I'm exactly 50% uptown, 50% downtown, totally different populations, just a buzz to be in each place. Love the people, love the neighborhood, love the difference. So that's really how I got here and with these two offices in practice today.
So Dr. Bronsky, talk a little bit about how you went about building your practice, how you built it in a second location, how you manage, multiple staffs, your approach to patient acquisition and marketing, branding, from the perspective of you kind of starting out, and the types of things that you did both successfully and maybe unsuccessfully, that led though to your ultimate success.
Well, you as a successful attorney know that the only way you learn is by messing things up. So I think I have the standing record of New York City orthodontics for making as many wrong decisions as right decisions. And I mean that. That's not just being humble. But I had a head start in that I watched my dad practice. And my mom was his office manager for 40 years. So when I first started, went out on my own, my mother's like, "What'd you do with the lease? Let me see it." Those types of things. I had a lot of help from her. She's 95 and a half now, God bless her. And she'll say, "How was your month?" She's still part, it's in our DNA. When I first went out on my own, I rented space from a GP, which was an absolute nuclear explosion. It did not work out. It was just horrible. And I found Dr. Geiger through a colleague of mine. So I rented his space for 2 days a week. And because I had such good academic foundation at UNC, I got teaching jobs for per diems. So I was at Mount Sinai Craniofacial Center. I was at Beth Israel at the time. I was at Cornell. I went to Elmhurst. I went anywhere where I could get a teaching gig to go over surgical ortho and growth modification, I would. And I would go to all the hospital meetings, all the lectures, all those types of things. And I would take a stack of business cards, and I just keep on going and keep on going. And people are, "I already work with Dr. So-and-so, so I'm not sending to you, but you're a nice guy." And little by little, those teaching jobs, cases would come in that were either retreatments or surgery cases or complex interdisciplinary cases. And, from the very beginning, my father, God bless him, said, "Treat every patient for the rest of your career as if it's your first patient." And that's a great piece of advice for anybody out there that you're casting to. And I've never lost that. And I felt like I was so well trained. Every patient I got, I've made sure for the last 35 years now, that every case write-up that goes out after thinking through it and writing it up with a proper problem list, examination measurements, and treatment plan options, I decided that I was going to do that as if my chief professor was over my shoulder, never shortcutting anything. And my thought was that if people were getting this level of academics, some of them might even read the letters and say, wow, this guy really is dedicated. It wasn't a manipulation. It was just, I felt like it was coming outside of me, from inside of me, to give quality of care. So a lot of the hospital chairs would send me the case, and they asked me to the next week lecture on how I work the case up. And so when surgeons or GPRs would graduate, they're like, hey, I saw you do a work on this patient. And little by little, the GPRs at Cornell and Sinai and those places would start to send me patients. I'd take them out to dinner. I'd go to a study club with them. And whenever I went to a study club, Progressive Dental Studies of Manhattan, which doesn't exist anymore, I'd go to the New York County Dental Society, pass out cards like I was dealing, a deck, and just tried to meet as many people as I possibly could. Not to be disingenuous, just like, hey, I'm new, love to help you. I know you might have an affiliation, but send me your hardest cases. That was another thing I got from my mom. Send me your hardest cases. I'll do them. I'll be happy to do them. And that's really how I got it started. And what I did was I rented one chair 2 days a week from Dr. Geiger. I had to keep my costs down. And every month I'd say, okay, I got to get this for rent. I got to get this for rent from Dr. Geiger, and then I'll eat. And then we'll see what's left. As I developed enough patients, I would drop a teaching day and add a full clinic day. First it was half days, and then it was beyond that. It took me about, I reckoned that it was about a year per day to fill the day. So after about 5 years, I had somewhat of a full-time private practice. I had a lot of holes in my schedule. So I would have some days where I'd book a long procedure and somebody would cancel. So I'm sitting around twiddling the rest of the day, but that happened to everybody. It, getting involved in software helped also. Hey, I met this person here. Let's document it. Let's put it down. Let's write them a note. And again, I stole this from my dad. Every time I meet somebody new, my wife, who I just met in '94, was a graphic designer. She said, you need nice, thick stock cards with your name on them. No credentials, no nothing. Every time you meet somebody, my dad said, write them a note. And I met some of my best friends by writing an old-fashioned note on a good cardstock, slipped a business card in there. And, some of the people threw them out, I'm sure. A lot of them, probably most of them. But, after a little while, it was just more of a very slow momentum. And I was lucky enough with my parents and my professors to just know ahead of time where I wanted to be as far as quality, reliability, efficiency, effectiveness, follow-up early on. And that's one thing for the kids. The young folks that are graduating residency now, have a deep think about what you want to be in 5, 10, 15 years, and you can get there. That's my feeling.
So smart. That's such good advice. Going back to your early days, you're renting a chair, you're making sure you can eat for the week. I mean, you get paid less working at a hospital than as an associate in a private practice somewhere. So how did you feel comfortable making that sacrifice while also paying overhead and rent? Did you just naturally have the foresight that building those connections and being in an education environment would benefit you in the long run? Like, how did you decide not to make that extra money?
Well, first of all, there were a lot of doors slammed in my face when I tried to get the associateship jobs. Some of them nicely slammed, and some of them slammed before I got my name out of my mouth. And I've always been, my stock in trade is being an academic geek. And I knew that I felt comfortable in the academic setting more than the private practice setting, because I was just out of, after high school, 11 straight years of school. So I felt like that was my playground. And if I could relate to people on an academic level that had private practices, then I could build a private practice that way. So yeah, it was a fraction of what I could have made as an associate, but I don't know, I just felt like I'd rather live more simply. I lived in a studio for many, many, many years. It was great. I loved it. I had my privacy. The old story when you get to New York, if you have a door you can close behind you and be the only guy in there, you're lucky in New York City. And I think I had 350 square foot studio at 220 East 54th Street, 9A. And I love that place because it was my own place for, the first time. So that's why I chose to do that. And I also, after I had two associateships, one right out of residency, and then the other when I came back to New York. And they just, as much as they'd open their doors and say, hey, be my partner, you're going to be a partner. It was very clear from those first two associateships that I was never going to be a partner. They never had the idea that I was going to be a partner. And I just felt like, nobody's going to take care of me like me. And I just wasn't comfortable with it.
This is a follow-up, focusing on the marketing branding side of it, and bringing that forward today. What is your approach? Are you using, Google with tiered ads? Are you just, because you have an established reputation at this point, it's just word of mouth and kind of organic? Do you have a method to the madness? How do you go about that?
Just so you know, and it sounds stodgy, I will never sit back on my laurels, ever. There's no such thing. My cousin Ira used to say, you earn from scratch every day. And I think he was right. So before the internet was a thing, it was more attending and giving lectures and handing out cards. And the marketing from that point went from, hey, I'm going to run a spreadsheet of who's been sending me patients and take care of them with deliveries, coffee and donut deliveries and Thanksgiving gifts and just the real organic, true stuff like that. And as I started to grow, I lost control a few times. And I went to an AAO meeting in Hawaii. I'd never been to Hawaii and I really wanted to go. And I heard an orthodontic dental consultant named Roger Levin, who now runs the largest dental consulting firm in the world. He's out of Baltimore. And I heard him speak and I was thunderstruck. It was like the first time I saw The Who live. It was like, ah! And he was a third generation dentist, turned into a full-time consultant. And just hearing him talk, the organizational layers that felt like chaos in my head started to fall into place. And part of his gig was teaching me how to market, but not market for the sake of marketing to draw people in, but to let people know who you were and what you were going to do, as opposed to just getting your name on the table, if that answers your question. And I've kind of used that as my template since. He's created something called the Practice Relations Coordinator, which is what Sophia is. And Sophia is really my best ever, but I've tried to build that position to make sure that every time we got a patient, the doctor who sent the patient knew we appreciated it. They got our letter, they got our radiographs. We checked and made sure the dentist or the specialist that sent them had all of their work done before we started anything. So just to be considerate, but also be medically and dentally correct. Those types of internal systems that people don't talk about when they're talking about, your Instagram views and all that kind of stuff, that I think is more important than anything external, even today. Now you might say I'm an anachronism, but I do think it's
No.
most important.
My experience in private industry and dealing with sales and marketing, these days people are using tools like Salesforce.com and things of that nature. But it's what you're talking about, what Sophia does is sort of what those tools do in terms of, having a schedule and a regular ticker to follow up and data about the target and all those kinds of things. So it sounds like you're kind of, from an intuitive standpoint, implementing those and have done that, over some time.
I'll even add to that. I found that I learned the most from attending study clubs. And one of them was, and I was invited to be a guest at something called the New York Academy of Dentistry, which is the oldest dental study club in New York. It's 100 and something years old now. And I got into it and I met tons of really ethical, solid doctors. And I'd listen to the lectures and I'd get to know them and I'd deal my cards out. And I got to meet people at those established study clubs. I found that was the best. And then I started to create study clubs using templates from other organizations, the Seattle Study Club and a bunch of others, and then realized I really didn't need their content anymore. So I host every like 6 times a year, I'll host something that was originally started by Roger Levin called the Dental Business Study Club that we hold 6 times a year at the Harmony Club. And we have a topic of the business of dentistry. And so we have people from just out of residency to people that are my elders who talk up. We have a discussion, we have dinner, we have libations, and we have, sometimes we've had up to 30 doctors, and they all get to know each other. And as they get that's another organic marketing method. And then once a year, because we feel like the staffs of the doctors often make the referrals as opposed to just the doctors themselves. A lot of doctors give 3 cards. I know 3 good orthodontists. I'll give you this, this, and this. Sometimes we're part of it. Sometimes we're not. We have this huge party. It's like a bar mitzvah every year of a couple hundred people or more called the summer kickoff party or the Scott party. And Sophia always themes it. You would have loved it, Michael. I wish I knew you. I would have invited both of you. It was Long Live Rock. Sophia made this. Let's see, where's my camera? She made, probably recognize that from 3 Days of Peace and Music at Woodstock.
Yeah.
One of our party favors is a coaster. So the point is that we hire either a band or a DJ and have all the doctors that send us patients and their full staffs come, and they all look forward to it. We feed them. The Harmony Club has the best food in the city, I think, and hospitality of a Seder table, and it's a great way to get out into the community. I introduce my associates and all of our team, and that's a big old get together. Now, I'm not getting to the internet part of this. I've rewritten the website. This is our 4th time. And we just keep trying to refine it. We wrote it on a different platform this time called Headless so that we can be as close to number 1 in the search engines as we possibly can be. And Sophia and one of our consultants, Brandy Bolke, runs a company called Charcoal Marketing. She's in Colorado. She helps us with the search engine optimization, which is really now morphed into something called, it's called Action Engine Optimization or something like that. They're going past that, so that you get to the top 1 or 2 when somebody searches for you. And then once you get there, whatever in your website has not just keywords, but key photographs and videos that lead people to you on that site. And Sophia, from the minute she came here, we had a Facebook page, we had an Instagram page, but Sophia's very definitive, not afraid to tell a guy 30 years older than she is, you're wrong, and you shouldn't post too much. And this is corny. This is good. The kids love this. They like this kind of hand sanitizer. Don't buy the old man stuff. Those little types of tweaks matter. Kids will come in and say, I heard you had the hand sanitizers.
I have it above my fridge right now.
Take all you want, kids, So we measure, and we did it yesterday. We measured the number of Instagram followers. I insist on, and Sophia agrees, to do befores and afters, just so I can feel like I'm not just selling snake oil. Say, hey, we did this case, hard as hell case, and look at what it came out. This is what we're about. We're about having the fun. We're about posting about our birthdays. We love our team. Any single one of them, I would ride in a car cross country for a week and enjoy their company. So we try to build the team based on, do you like to have fun? Do you care about people? Are you genuine, or are you just putting on a front? We don't tolerate that. And I know it sounds maybe a little self-aggrandizing, but I don't like phony. Nobody likes phony. Anybody can smell phony. Anybody can. So years ago, I started, and I'm proud of this, I started the EPED initiative within the office. Every patient, every day. Treat them. They're the first patient. You want them to love the practice, love the experience, and tell everybody about it. So that's part of the internal marketing of it. And Sophia devised a little card that we give them when they finish their treatment. We give the patients that finish a little silver box with a mug with our logo on it and Hershey's Kisses. And we open it up and say, this is a bucket full of kisses for you for being such a great patient. And by the way, here's a card to leave a review. Please. And I always say, if you had a good experience, please write us a review. We might get 10 or 12% of the people actually doing it, but I think it's worth it. And again, I hope I didn't go off into a tangent.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, you obviously spend a lot of time and thought on what I'll call like softer aspects of your business, the personal, the interconnection, the bond, the culture. Those seem to be the things that are recurring in what you're describing, which I think is obviously it's your point is it's been a huge driver of your success.
You kind of have been pedal to the metal since the day you started, which is how you got your name out there. And it's so smart and a good reminder that just make connections and see where they take you. So COVID was a time where everyone's numbers were down, right? Even, even the best of the best, things were changing. How did you, in that kind of ecosystem, how did you change things that you were typically used to doing to get back on track, to increase your revenue, kind of like someone who was starting up, in that time would have had to do?
Well, it was a gut punch for everybody. Michael, I don't know how it affected your law practice, but I'm sure it did. But, the work from home thing was not as prevalent. And of course, as dentists, I had one of my friends, Karsten, called me up. We talked to each other and said, we have perhaps the worst job on the planet for a COVID, for this thing. We're dead. And there were times when we thought during COVID that we would just never have a practice again. We just thought we'd all go out of business. But my wife and I made the decision early on that we didn't know how long it was going to last. It was 2 weeks, then it was a month. We decided we were going to pay the team because we wanted to keep the team together. And we did. We paid them, out of our own savings. And luckily we got the loans, the forgivable loans. So that gave us a huge head start to come back from COVID. And I sent out an email every few days. I bold everything and I capitalized everything. I called it the big comeback, and I trademarked it. And we would talk on Zoom every day. We talked to the whole team once a week, and I said to everybody, the first day we met, okay, we don't know how long we're going to be out, but we're all home, and we can now think up projects that we've never had time to do and do them, even if we just have a weekend off. Let's go for it. Janine, what do you think? Caroline, what do you think? And we all came back together, and every day everybody would have a project, and I would check it out on Zoom every few days. And by the time we got back, we were buying PPE and all that kind of stuff. And I really feel like we set ourselves up for that big comeback. Number one, by keeping the staff. There are people that I talk to now that I know since COVID, I couldn't get a staff back. Lucky, best decision, probably the best business decision I ever made was to keep the team. That year was bad financially, but the rebound more than canceled it out and did better. So I feel like it made us sharpen our look-sees on everything, have as few patients lingering past estimated completion date. We put together a list every week of who's still in treatment, who's over time. So COVID on the back end really sharpened our skills because it had to.
Was there any specific new system that you guys implemented that you could really attribute to the growth, like a specific example?
Telehealth. Regina, our chief treatment coordinator, is the only one that had ever heard of Zoom. And we started using Zoom, and we had 5, 6, 7 appointments a day on Zoom, checking functional appliances, aligners, headgear, expanders. We would send people expanders in the mail.
So are these people they're like this, like showing you their mouth?
I told them that they had to have 2 people. The patient had to have 2 takeout plastic spoons to retract. There had to be a person with an iPhone, flashlight, and camera, and then 1 person to do the other. So it was like a 3-person thing. And everybody was home. They had plenty of time to do it.
It's like a business school case study on, how to survive an existential crisis. I think we've talked a little bit about the past and the present. I wanted to get into a little bit about the future of orthodontics. So the role of Invisalign in orthodontics and the change that it's made to the practice, but also most recently, they just announced their second quarter earnings, and there was a lot of commentary during the earnings call about how their volumes are way down. And relatedly, the Invisalign stock, I think, dropped something like 30% a day. Talk both about Invisalign and also, is that a leading indicator of a trend that's going to be something that, anybody practicing in orthodontics needs to really be mindful about as they go forward? Or do you think that is a temporary blip? And if so, why? Anyway, it's a long-winded question, but
it's a good question.
You have to say about any of that would be interesting.
I am going to take it, as I always do, as I've said, I'm going to take it from an academic and then practical standpoint. I have always tried to look at Invisalign as a tool in my toolbox and not as a prime mover in my practice. It's a method to accomplish certain things. It is not a method that can handle everything. The company advertises it as a panacea for every orthodontic need, and it is clearly not. So I don't think that the downward trend is that orthodontics is dying. I think that more than anything, the polish might have come off the hood of the car a little bit, because all the wonderful, you can do anything you want and it's easy and lay back, has really kind of blown back to the public that this is a lot of work. It's not always the most pleasant thing in the world, and it's not 100% correcting. Might get you what you want, but it's not 100%. So I think that they're getting a little bit of a taste of backlash from promising everything to everybody. Like in any business in the world, if you promise the world and you don't deliver, you're in some deep doo-doo. But if you promise good and get better, then you'll be all right. I think it's going to equilibrate down to, hey, it's not in everything. That's the first answer. The second part of that is, I do think that what's coming is going to be in-house printing of the aligners through better software and better 3D printing. And I do think the current way that things are done and the remarkable way that they do them with their big factories in Costa Rica, et cetera, I think it's going to die. I think it's going to die because people are going to want to gain more control and pay less money to them. The Align technology has absolutely put a huge gaping hole in orthodontists' profitability because of the magnitude of the upfront costs. So that said, I do not see Align technology stock prices or ebb and flow as a red flag or a green flag for the future of the orthodontics. I think that it's a tool. It should be looked at as such. It's a good tool in good sense, but not everything.
A little bit more on AI. Where do you foresee it making an impact? Or is it in the diagnosis side of it? Is it in mapping out the model for the brace or the aligner? And obviously, I'm speaking way over my head at this point, so sorry if I missed anything.
No, you're doing very well for somebody that doesn't study
Doesn't
it
know what
like
he's talking
Kylie and I
about.
do.
Yeah, right.
I will tell you, I think it's going to be a hugely positive tool. I think because, for example, even just from a learning standpoint, you can summarize articles and boil it down to what really, really works. If the AI is fed correctly, I think it's going to really help with the actual execution of the orthodontics. And as far as the diagnostics, I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm lucky enough to be a member of the Next Gen Face, Cleft, and Craniofacial team up at Lenox Hill, and I've been on the Cornell Craniofacial team. And those are cases where you are making it up as you go along, because every craniofacial case is literally different. And if you can think through with AI, okay, this bone graft took this amount of bone that we got through a 3D CT. What is the likelihood that you can expand now, et cetera? Those kind of decisions are usually trial and error. I think AI is going to remove some trial and error to orthodontics, and that's going to benefit the patients greatly. It's going to benefit us greatly because we're going to be able to give them, for the first time, a more definitive path in trying to figure out what to do in the hardest cases. The more we can figure out what to do with the hardest cases, the more well-treated will be the people that have less in the way of deformities and have a better end result. But AI, I think, is really going to be helping. It's almost like a funnel when you're writing a paper or you're writing a brief in law. You can start broad and get really focused quickly. That's my thought. I could be dead wrong, and in 5 years somebody could watch this and go, that guy was an idiot. But that's where I think it's going to go.
No, I think you're totally right on that, partially because I really, really hope you're right on that. I'm curious now. I'm overwhelmed with information. I want to learn as much as I possibly can in the shortest amount of time and start implementing it. That would be the dream, but I don't even know where to begin sometimes. Do I keep reading Profit? Do I watch Invisalign videos? Do I work on business learning all behind the scenes? Where do I start and what should I prioritize? How do I kind of separate that now?
It's a great question, and it really doesn't just apply to ortho, but I would say, since I can speak most intelligently about ortho, for example, I'm biased because I studied under him. I think every orthodontist should read Dr. Profit's Contemporary Orthodontics, soon to be the 7th edition, every year, cover to cover. I think repetition, and to answer your question, repetition is the key. I want to learn about aligners and the newest innovations. Pick the teachers that you think are giving the least salesy and the most academically accurate, clinically accurate. And, I've paid untold amounts of money to consultants hoping that they would give me the answer, only to realize I was trying to arm's length it. Was stupid and short-sighted. Just get into the guts of it, pick a few and study the heck out of it, and then try to apply it and see what fits with your gut the best. You might feel overwhelmed, but just focus from the beginning. And, even call Dr. Moshiri, for example, and say, listen, I'll pay you. I want to come to your office and watch you treat Invisalign cases for 4 days. I'll feed your staff lunch every day. I'll take you out to dinners. I'll babysit your kids, but show me. I think that direct tutoring, Roger Levin taught me, if you don't understand something, get somebody that does. It's like a tutor in high school. If you're not getting Algebra 2, get a tutor. Get somebody that knows how to communicate that so they can streamline it. It's worth the money. Even if you take home nothing except living expenses for the first few years, just treat your first 5 years like a residency and on those focal points, and make yourself on a Saturday morning say, after I do my run, I'm going to spend 2 hours on these 5 chapters. I'm passionate about it, as you can tell.
And I think that's a good point. Instead of trying to get a bunch of different stuff and have a broad understanding, just really get the good ones. But we've taken way too much of your time. So
Pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
you coming on.
Thanks, guys. What an honor. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to Medical Morons. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.